All right, we're about to dive into a story about two thinkers, two absolute titans. Their ideas are locked in this epic battle that, believe it or not, still shapes pretty much everything about our world. These guys didn't just, write a few books. They drew up the blueprints for modern society, and at the same time, the battle plans to tear it all down. So yeah, this is Adam Smith versus Karl Marx.
And the story really kicks off with one of the most famous, most chilling opening lines ever written. It's 1848, and Karl Marx and his collaborator Friedrich Engels, they just come out and declare it. A new force is coming to completely upend civilization. We've got to be clear about this. This wasn't just some political pamphlet, no way. This was a full-on declaration of war against an entire economic system.
So what was this world that Marx was so ready to burn down? I mean, to really get the critique, you first have to understand what he was critiquing, right? So let's do that. Let's rewind the clock, about 70 years, to meet the guy who basically wrote the rule book for the very system Marx wanted to smash.
All right, so let's meet our first titan, Adam Smith, the architect of capitalism. Now, you might hear father of modern economics and picture some, cold calculating numbers guy, but that wasn't him at all. He was actually a moral philosopher, just trying to figure out this crazy, fast-changing world he was living in. And at the very heart of his whole philosophy was this powerful, almost magical idea, the invisible hand. Okay, so picture this. It's 1776. The American colonies are declaring their independence. While that very same year, Adam Smith publishes his own kind of Declaration of Independence, The Wealth of Nations. And this book, it was a game changer. It took him from being a relatively unknown Scottish professor to a global intellectual superstar. And why? Well, because he gave the world a completely new lens to see through, a totally fresh way of understanding how money, how markets, how entire nations actually work.
So, this is it. This is the big idea, the invisible hand, and it was pretty radical for the time. Smith basically said, hey, what if individual greed could actually be a public good? Think about your local baker. Is he getting up at 4 a.m. to bake bread because he just loves feeding you? Probably not. He's doing it to make money for his family. He's acting in his own self-interest. But, and here's the magic, in the process, he accidentally benefits the whole community. You get fresh bread. Smith argued that if you multiply that by millions of people all chasing their own interests, the whole of society benefits. Almost like it was guided by an invisible hand. Nobody's in charge, but it just works.
And you can't overstate what a revolutionary idea this was. I mean, before Smith, the old way of thinking was pretty simple. A nation's wealth was just how much gold and silver it had piled up in a vault somewhere. That was it. But Smith comes along and says, nope, that's all wrong. He argued that a nation's real wealth isn't some static pile of treasure. It's dynamic. It's the productive work of its people, their skills, their labor, their creativity. It's the hustle and bustle of a busy economy.
So you've got Smith's ideas out there in the world, and they basically provided the intellectual fuel for a fire that was already starting to smolder, the Industrial Revolution. This wasn't just an idea in a book anymore. The system was, it was unleashed. And it started to transform the world at a speed that was just unimaginable. And just look at how fast everything happened. I mean, in 1776, Smith's masterpiece is just a book on a shelf. Fast forward a few decades, and his ideas are the reality on the ground. Factories are literally exploding across the landscape. They're creating unbelievable wealth for a few, but for millions of others, it's a brutal, grueling new way of life. By the time we get to 1848, that tension is it's at a boiling point. Revolutions are breaking out all over Europe, and out of that chaos, a powerful new voice of critique emerges.
And here we are. This is the moment that Spectre gets a voice. Right in the middle of all the smoke and chaos of industrial Europe, with cities in revolt from Paris to Berlin, Marx and Engels dropped the Communist Manifesto. And this wasn't an academic paper. This was a document written with one purpose, not just to explain the world, but to fundamentally change it. And that, of course, brings us to our second titan, Karl Marx, the great critic. If Adam Smith was the architect who designed this grand new system, then Karl Marx was the inspector who came along, looked at the magnificent structure and said, hold on, I see deep, fatal cracks in the foundation here.
Now, don't picture Marx as some philosopher sitting in a comfy armchair in an ivory tower. That wasn't him. He was a radical journalist, and he was actually exiled for his dangerous ideas. He lived in the grimy, industrial heartlands of places like Paris and London, so he wasn't just theorizing about capitalism from afar, he was on the ground, documenting its harshest realities from the inside.
For Marx, the engine that drives all of human history is, in a word, conflict. He basically argued that if you peel back all the grand stories about kings and queens and empires, what you'll find underneath is one single repeating story: the struggle between classes, freeman and slave, lord and serf, and now, in his time, the factory-owning class, the bourgeoisie, and the working class, the proletariat.
But we really need to understand what that word proletariat meant back in the 1840s. It didn't just mean factory workers, not at all. It described a whole new kind of underclass, people who'd been uprooted from the countryside, totally impoverished, and then crammed into these new industrial cities. And the people in power, the establishment, they didn't just see these folks as poor, they saw them as the dangerous classes, a genuine threat to the entire social order.
Okay, so let's put these two guys head to head. Let's look at the core issues that really divided them. Things like private property, profit, and power. I mean, this is it. This is the great debate, the very heart of their conflict.
First up, private property. And on this, they couldn't be more different. For Adam Smith, private property was a good thing. It was a natural reward that comes from a healthy, prosperous society. But for Karl Marx, he saw it completely differently. To him, huge private fortunes weren't a sign of success. They were evidence of a crime. They were the result of theft, the stolen value of the worker's labor.
And what about the role of government? Again, polar opposites. Smith was the champion of laissez-faire, that French term that basically means let it be or hands off. He argued the best thing a government can do for the economy is nothing, just get out of the way. Marx looked at the same world, saw what he called the brutality of the market, and argued for the exact opposite. He wanted the entire economy to be operated communally, by the people, precisely to eliminate that brutality.
So, okay, we've got these two guys from the 18th and 19th centuries. Why are we still talking about them? Why does any of this matter today? Well, because their ideas are anything but dead. They have profoundly shaped the world we all live in, and they still frame the biggest questions we're grappling with right now.
Seriously, their legacies are everywhere. Adam Smith, he gave us the blueprint for modern capitalism and the whole argument for free trade. Karl Marx, he gave us the critique, the language of class struggle that became the foundation for revolutions all over the globe. And that fundamental disagreement they had about wealth, about fairness, about the role of government, that is still the central debate that drives our politics and our economy today.
And Marx didn't end his famous manifesto with some quiet academic conclusion. No, he ended it with a thundering call to arms. This wasn't just analysis, it was a promise and a command. These are words that would echo for the next 100 years and literally inspire millions of people to rise up. And that leaves us right here, living in the world these two men helped create and define. A world of incredible global markets and wealth, but also a world of historic inequality. So the great debate they started, it's our debate now. Looking at the world around you today, whose ideas do you think resonate more?